Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimur. Shamil. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi was on his 2-day visit to Tajikistan, where he was attending the Council of Heads of Governments in Tajikistan, and this was to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization 17th Heads of Councils of Heads of meeting. And on that meeting, Foreign Minister certainly raised up many points regarding Pakistan's foreign policy, issues in the world, issues in our part of the world. Foreign Minister talked about the potential that are there for Shanghai Cooperation Organization, for Pakistan, for that matter. Certainly, there are many challenges and there are many potentials as well for SCO. The regional alliances are changing, and under SCO, the regional countries, primarily Pakistan and India from South Asia and the Central Asian states, have been collaborating on various platforms, on various things. Today we are going to discuss about Foreign Minister's 2-day visit to Tajikistan, the potentials of Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, Pakistan's foreign policy, and also challenges for Pakistan and challenges for the regional countries when it comes to security, when it comes to trade, for that matter. We are going to discuss about all this with our special guests in the studios. Our first guest is Ambassador Tajammul Altaf, a renowned senior diplomat and an expert on Pakistan-China relations and China affairs as well. So welcome to the show. Our second guest is Mr. Mohammad Sheryar. He is an expert on international relations and also on international affairs regarding Pakistan and Afghanistan. Welcome to the show, Sheryar. Our third guest is Salman Zaidi. He is an expert on Pakistan's foreign policy and also on Pakistan-India relations and Pakistan-Afghanistan relations. Welcome to the show, Salman. Ambassador Altaf, starting with Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a platform, Foreign Minister was there in Tajikistan and he talked about the SCO as a platform, and he said SCO is not just a platform, it's also a regional activity that is going to focus on the potential that are there for all the countries and also for a layman or common man, because that is what people want in our part of the world. SCO makes half of the population of half of world population. So this is a big potential. Countries can collaborate, they can work on a lot of things. Foreign Minister's visit to SCO and the potential of SCO, how do you see this?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so very much, Taimur, Shamil, once again inviting me for this show. Last time we also spoke our foreign policy issues and all that. This 17th meeting of the Council of Head of Government, which was held in Dushanbe, was a milestone and a very important event in the series of SCO engagements which have been carried out in the last 17 odd years. It was for Pakistan, it was the second time that we attended this meeting after becoming full member of SCO. The last one was in China, Qingdao, where we represented our country by the Prime Minister. And this time it was in Dushanbe, represented by the Foreign Minister, along with other representatives of the 7 countries, 6 Prime Ministers and 2 Foreign Ministers, Pakistan and India. You have rightly said that Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi touched upon all important facets of SCO and its outreach. And he talked about that Shanghai Cooperation Organization does have its genesis in the past, Eurasia, the way it was cooperating in the past, and the way now it is aspiring to have further cooperation in the future. And he said our future is promising and we can do a lot. As you have rightly said, that SCO represents more than 48% of the world population, around 25% of the world GDP, and around 22 to 23% of geographical outreach. So this is indeed half of the humanity itself. So all the activities which are taking place within the frame or platform of Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not just a regional outreach. It of course has its tentacles. SCO does have its own tentacles and dynamics going beyond the region. And even when we are talking about CPEC or BRI or reaching to the Europe, the entire Europe, for me, Shanghai Cooperation Organization is going to be a very vibrant organization in the future. And we pin a lot of hopes in the dynamics of this organization.
Right. And SCO, Shiraz, is also focusing on the potential of Central Asian states, Eurasia primarily. Energy-rich region, certainly, and it is a requirement for China. China certainly needs that kind of energy. Pakistan becoming a member of SCO certainly can tap this potential. So far, we have not been perhaps exploring much of the potential of Central Asia and Central Asian states. Do you think this is the right time that Pakistan should focus on, the Central Asian states, Eurasia?
Well, definitely. I think not only that, Pakistan can also provide them a gateway to the rest of the world as well. So we have to look at that because there is a bargaining chip available, not only one-sided. So there can be an interdependence between the Central Asian state and Pakistan for that matter. Unfortunately, then again, when we took the one thing which we have been repeating on multiple occasions is that putting our own house in order. So that is going to be the utmost priority for the Pakistani government because the challenges at home are such in grave magnitude that it's for Pakistan to put more emphasis on other regional and extra-regional issues is probably becoming a kind of problem at the moment. So I think, yes, work needs to be done, but then again, work needs to be done in the form where we can create interdependence, because interdependence is the only way forward for the region. If we talk about the energy issues, we talk about the security issues, there are so many things, because this question I asked to the, roughly around 5 years ago to a Russian diplomat, and the question was, how important is for the region to move forward on the lines of, if we may say, the European Union for that matter. SCO is becoming more than what it initiated to be. So that is more important. So I think apart from the security and energy issues, I think the political issues also will become a centerpiece to this organization, and that is the way forward. And if we talk about the challenges which our region faces, so those challenges need to be first addressed. For example, terrorism. If we talk about Pakistan and Eurasian states and Central Asian states, Afghanistan is right in the middle, a landlocked country. So that heart of the problem, heart of Asia needs to be corrected, needs to be cured in order to look forward to the ambitions which we have designed, not only us but the SCO as well, for the half of the population, as very rightly mentioned by the ambassador.
Right. So Salman, Pakistan Foreign Minister has been visiting several countries. His maiden trip was to Afghanistan, and that certainly shows Pakistan's seriousness towards addressing the issue of Afghanistan. But just we are appearing, on different platforms. What is more important is how are we going to tap the potential, let's say, of these platforms, of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, of Eurasia. We need to have a proactive diplomacy in these countries so that we can have something concrete, some business deals for that matter. How are we going to go about that?
Yes, it's important that you've pointed this sequence out, because that is in fact how it happens. The diplomacy is frequently followed up by business deals, by business interests, by lobbying for an agenda that cannot be pursued by the ministry or the minister or the PM office itself. And therefore you have these large delegations that pick up on those interests, and bits and pieces of conversations are then patched together. But having said this, I think it's also equally important that you recognize that this is a multipolar moment, as we've been hearing for a while. And for Pakistan to leverage this multipolar moment must mean that it also picks up on the multilateralism at work in these organizations. Joining the SCO or being a member or observer of these organizations may not mean much in the long term. Shah Mahmood Qureshi said that we can at the SCO we can mainstream Pakistan's lessons in counter-terror, which are significant and which can, those templates we can work off and even sort of, be a leader at the SCO on those templates. Right. Pakistan hasn't spoken with any success about its field experience and how it sort of really revamped the direction and nature of counter-terror and counter-insurgency. Those are important lessons learned. Whereas other countries like Israel, like the US, have developed entire military manuals and published them from the White House, from at the very top strategic levels as things to behold. Pakistan hasn't done that as effectively. Also, one must recognize that while there is multilateralism we can leverage. There are also interests that are hurting Pakistan. The Indian foreign minister did not lose this opportunity to say her piece at
Once
the
again,
SCO. Came out all guns blazing. Whether it's against Pakistan or not, their script does not change. It is very much on terror in South Asia. And should they want to mainstream that at the SCO, then Pakistan will be at a loss, as it has been at previous multilateral forums.
Right. So do you think, Ambassador Tajammul, that India somehow, what I can decipher from what Salman is saying, is trying to make SCO perhaps another SARC? And obviously India would not be able to do that because we have certainly big, strong economies in SCO. But that Indian rhetoric is the same when it comes to SARC or UNGA or when it comes to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. How do we wriggle out of this situation?
Well, for me, Taimur, it is a situation wherein India is, of course, regressing and harping on the same theme, which is now not new. I have been hearing to that sort of discourse and conversation coming from Indian circles. It started, say, in the late 1990s, and in the last 2 decades, the way they have been harping on this theme of terrorism and not talking about how to address that terrorism or that state-sponsored terrorism emanating from Indian government itself. So for me, SARC does have its own dynamics which are no more working. But Shanghai Cooperation Organization is altogether a new game ball. And there is no doubt on one side, China sitting as the architect of that whole idea of SCO. On the other side, Russian Federation, the past superpower as the Soviet Union. And in between, that hell of the potential, which is of course very much there intact. Let me come to certain tangible points which have been flagged and reflected not only by Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi but also leaders in this SCO summit. What was that? Apart from that we are ready to cooperate for anti-terrorism activities, whether it is under the mechanism of RATS. Pakistan offered openly, we are ready to share our experiences, what happened with us and how SCO and the world can avoid that sort of situation and they can learn from our expertise. Right. Apart from that, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi came up with very tangible, concrete economic proposals. Proposal number 1 was that SCO member countries should evolve a mechanism under which they should be using their own local currencies. Instead of relying on dollar or other European currencies, they can focus on local currencies. And we also mooted the idea, presented the idea that Shanghai Cooperation Organization Development Bank and Shanghai Cooperation Organization Development Fund, which may in the future be working exactly on the line of the World Bank or IMF, should be built. And this was a message not only from Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahib but also other leaders. And second point which they very much prominently projected in this summit was that we should be thinking long-term projects which can be beneficial for the people of the entire SCO region. Right. And then Belt and Road Initiative coupled with CPEC, where Pakistan can play its important role providing that seamless connectivity and ports and road networks to SCO countries. And this is also economic cooperation. And then also talked about to liberalize visa regime for the businessmen.
We talked about that as well.
So all these are facts wherein leaders are now thinking. So let us not take that one leader, that is India, if they are just coming there as spoiler or just want to use that platform for talking only one thing, which is terrorism. Terrorism is one very important facet of this whole regional organization, but there are a lot many other factors.
Primarily 3 things that we are discussing right now. Shiraz, potential of SCO, the economic potential of SCO, all the members of SCO, terrorism, and also having a balance of power in the region. All these three things, this is very interesting. First of all, talking about counter-terrorism, Pakistan certainly has been fighting. We have been talking about this in our show several times, that Pakistan has successfully fought all the terrorist organizations inside Pakistan. Now we expect our neighbors to do that, for that matter, in Afghanistan. And Foreign Minister talked about Afghanistan, we'll talk about that. But certainly our specialty at the moment perhaps is counter-terrorism, because we have been fighting them successfully. But there is more to Pakistan, more than countering terrorism, and that is economy. Because now what we want is better economy, good business deals with the Central Asian states, with the Eurasian states, with China for that matter. And we have to now find more avenues for trade deals with these countries. Because if we look at our other neighbors, India for that matter, Uzbek president would be visiting India soon. So we want something like a concrete business deal, something more economic with these states, not just counter-terrorism. Do you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. Why not? Because that's what we have been emphasizing, that's what we have been portraying to the world, and that's what we are getting back. So there is an issue within our own ranks and files as well.
Right.
So that needs to be addressed, because SCO is a whole new idea. SCO is basically trying to address or trying to say that the world is evolving, the politics is evolving, the economy is evolving. So there is no one single country who can take control or take on these challenges. So we need to have a multilateral, as very rightly mentioned by Mr. Salman. We need to be multilateral in our approach towards regional issues. As I mentioned earlier, the Russian diplomat, he was trying to say that the regional issues are multilateral in their manifestation. So we need to have a multilateral approach in order to address those issues. So yes, as far as Pakistan is concerned, security is one way of looking at it. But then again, Pakistan's strategic location is so significant and important that it is more than just security. We are becoming a corridor. A corridor. We are becoming, rather, I usually put it this way, if Asia is to become the heartland of 21st century, that makes China the balancer and Pakistan the jugular vein of this whole activity. So we are the jugular vein of the economic activity in the upcoming decades and centuries. But then again, we cannot totally, we have to change this habit of depending on others.
Right.
We have to create an interdependence, and that's where we lack. As far as the Indian question is concerned, Indian participation, we have to admit they have a significant participation, and not only in the region but in the global affairs as well. They will make sure that they go to the last limit wherever they get a chance to undermine Pakistan's influence. So we have to counter that influence in multiple ways, not just bashing India for what they are doing. One last point. The thing which I've observed over the period of time, we have been talking about so many things like CPAC, Pakistan's potential, what Pakistan can do, but we don't actually do anything on the ground internally. There is no academic, proper, concrete research on the fact that what kind of deals, what kind of economic transactions should we go for, what kind of relationship should be based on, what kind of interdependence we require. So all these issues need to be studied first. These issues should not be taken on the fact that, okay, a bigger country, a better country is offering us something, and that is going to be an equal deal. No, we have to create an equal deal. We have the bargaining chip, we have a strategic location, we have security-wise improved ourselves, we have the expertise on that side as well. We need to exchange, we need to have an interdependence between the SC members and us.
Interdependence, Salman, is the real thing, is the most important thing at the moment. Russia's deal with India, S-400 deal with India, that was also surprising for many countries, for Pakistan for that matter, because we have been thinking that Pakistan and Russia are getting closer, but certainly Russia and India, they have a long relationship, and they have been Russia has been backing India on many platforms. United Nations Security Council, SCO for that matter, this S-400 deal. So while we talk about our specialty, that is counter-terrorism, we see that other countries in the region are having trade deals, India's trade deals with China, China's trade deals with Eurasian countries, all that. But what else can Pakistan offer, and what else can we expect from SCO, other than just countering terrorism?
Sure. I firmly believe that an obsession with security or over-securitization of our national discourse has brought us into the situation that we are today, where we have ignored entire domains where Pakistan could have done much better. And I agree with the analysis that was done by my other two co-panelists that Pakistan has really not been able to leverage itself by getting into camps, by identifying itself too closely with camps. We were in the American camp for too long. We have now gone into the Chinese camp, and it comes with it is very, very appreciable that the PM himself has asked for closer scrutiny on our terms within CPEC, whereby we are now engaging Saudi Arabia into the mix. We will need to read the fine print on how exactly those deals came about, and of shifting of focus from infrastructure to jobs creation, etc., as the PM has said, and that's very welcome. Having said that, I think the other kind of ways, to answer your question, what are other ways that Pakistan can leverage its potential? What other things we have on offer? Pakistan, for one, has a booming IT industry. It is an industry generating $5 billion a year last year, and projected to go up to $6 billion the next year. Where we call Pakistan a corridor, we are known as leaders in creating things on artificial intelligence, things like Internet of Things. These are all new domains, not so new actually, because they were in the making for a while.
But for Pakistan, sir?
For Pakistan, our freelancers are among the rank and file of global sort of innovators in the fintech industry, etc. This has not been leveraged at all. There are conferences in the private sector. There's one happening this weekend where people come and talk to each other. You have a company based out of Karachi, a software house that created an algorithm that went on to predict the French elections. That is the kind, we're really at the edge of this, and that's just one industry I'm talking about. If you move to the blue economy sector, and I'll take 30 more seconds describing it. That is an international kind of offering that we can make to the world. The blue economy has not been pioneered by many countries. Pakistan is particularly well placed because of the way the sort of how the country edges off into the Arabian Sea. We can create an international enclave for biodiversity, for marine life, etc., where we are creating Gawada. Just move off a couple of miles off that same coast, and you can create an entire international enclave. Create that for the entire sort of world's blue economy workers to come and leverage. This is a concept that's rolling out at the UN. Pakistan is very, very well placed to make use of it.
Right. And
2 points I would like to add over here. As far as what other measures can be taken, what other departments are available, industry, how well trained or equipped or ready is our industry for the challenges ahead, especially after CPAC. Is your industry ready for that? How much emphasis have been paid on that? So we need to work on that. And most importantly, the agriculture sector, the backbone of Pakistan's economy. How well protected and prepared is it for the upcoming decade and so on and so forth. One more point over here. In Pakistan, nobody takes conferences, workshops, trainings seriously, especially the government of Pakistan themselves. So that approach needs to be changed. We need to put confidence in our policymakers, policy researchers. We need to have more confidence in academia, and we need to. That's what usually happens in the West.
I think academia, you talked about academics would certainly take it seriously when they would see that this is going to benefit them. Having an industry which is working on troubleshooting attitude, inviting the academics and then connecting them with the IT firms for that matter, that is going to solve the issue for Pakistan, and that is perhaps going to be something for Pakistan. Talking about CPEC, what Salman Zaidi talked about, Ambassador Altaf, how would people get benefit at the grassroots level from China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? This thing that the Prime Minister has been revising, or the present government has been revising, the terms and conditions of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is, I would say, something encouraging and positive, because every government has the prerogative to look at China-Pakistan Economic Corridor through its own priorities for that matter. So how would a layman, a common man, benefit from CPEC is at the moment most important thing, because that is how people would get to know about Pakistan's relations with China, and perhaps when we have a stronger economy, then perhaps we can offer something to the world and we can get something from the world.
Taimur, I fully agree with you and also two panelists on their discourse and their views on this very important topic. There is no second thought on that. Having said that, of course, we really need to have our own soul searching. We are lagging behind at a lot many places. One, of course, is CPEC itself. The way China wants to project CPEC for us, perhaps we still are not ready to get it. And secondly, there are no debates, there is no open discussions, whether these are in academia or in research centers or think tanks. What is going to be the future, and what, of course, benefits are to be accrued, are to be given to the people at large. And this is what the new government, during the recent visit of the Chinese foreign minister, raised very openly on CPEC projects. And they came up with very clear understanding. We want transparency. We want consensus on these agreements, and what is going to be, what is going to happen with a common man, whether these projects are people-centric or not, whether they are going to draw some benefits. And in response, Chinese foreign minister came up with very clear understanding with our leaders' understanding. And that was, we are ready, apart from CPEC projects, to help Pakistan, whether this is uplifting in your agriculture, or your sanitation, or housing, or even your industrial base, or creation of industries in those areas which are far behind, or which are not developing. And western regions of Pakistan need more jobs and livelihood for the people. And Chinese say, we are ready to help you out. Now, what is problem which I try to understand is, perhaps we still are not on the same page with the Chinese vision and understanding of CPEC and its extension in BRI and OBOR, right? And second is, there is no open debate. We are not mentally prepared. Perhaps we are thinking our glass is still half empty. And we are not looking at half full glass approach which is coming from outside. And this was debate also generated by two other panelists. We perhaps are not fully aware of the dynamics of this new cooperation, whether it is under CPEC or Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the way we should prepare ourselves internally first, right, bringing in all those areas which can contribute at the end of the day, try to create public confidence in these projects, and ensure that all these projects, one way or the other, at the end of the day, are going to benefit the people at large, not politicians or just a few people, blue-collared or,
Exactly, and I think this is a very important point. Sheryar's imagination, I think, is the most important thing. That is what we need in our foreign policy. Imagination should lead us.
Unity of imagination, I would say.
Sorry?
Unity of imagination.
Unity of,
because we are imagining in isolation, all of us.
All of us.
But there's no unity.
And also imagining Pakistan as a global player. Globally, how would Pakistan perform? And not just thinking of CPEC or Shanghai Cooperation Organization locally. SCO, CPEC should benefit the people at the grassroots level. But what role would Pakistan play, and how would Pakistan play when it would be a part of Shanghai Cooperation? It is a part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So all these things, shortly about Pakistan's foreign policy and how should we go about tapping this potential of SCO.
In the 21st century, if we talk about foreign policy, it's the internal foreign policy which matters now. Domestically, if you're strong enough, you're stable enough, then you can give a strong message externally as well. Right. So we need to then again, it was said to us by China on multiple occasions, and on a very serious note, you need to put your house in order. And then again, putting your house in order means there needs to be an institutional balance of power within Pakistan, so everybody knows where they are headed. that needs to be addressed. As far as the trickle-down effect is concerned, that is the responsibility of the governments. That is the responsibility of the decision-making elites to make sure that because they are not experts on how to engage, how to get into these deals and agreements. So that there needs to be grassroots level work on these international agreements. As far as SCO is concerned, Pakistan, then again, as I said, is the jugular vein of the economic ambitions of the region.
Right.
And that what puts Pakistan at the front line. As I mentioned multiple times, we need to have dedicated, you can say, channel, just like Iran has press TV of international global, standards and approach.
Educating people about.
So you need to address that. Now it's not about the governments; it's about the people under those governments. We need to change the global public opinion. For that, it's a very important step.
Public opinion as well. But Salman, talking about the conducive environment, that is very important for any country. For Pakistan, we have a hostile neighbor, India, and then we have war going on in Afghanistan. Do you think that these environment in the region for Pakistan is okay, is conducive enough? Because we are just having, let's say, good relations with China, but that too we are working on it, right? We have this China-Pakistan economic corridor and we are figuring it out how to go about it. But this war and then hostile neighbors, there are potentials as well in Eurasia, in Central Asia. This whole environment, how do you see it? And how do we get out of this?
So, I think it would be important to put the level of analysis not at the state level. Because if you only look at Pakistan vis-a-vis or Islamabad vis-a-vis New Delhi or Kabul, then you will remain stuck in the problems and the discourse and the kind of policy straitjackets that you've already been utilizing over the last 10 years without success. Whereby at a state-to-state level, Kabul has not also been a friendly government.
Salman, sorry to cut you. We have to take a break and we'll be right back after this break. We have to take a break at this point. We'll continue our discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are discussing Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi was on his 2 days visit to Tajikistan, and there he made a speech at the SCO platform. Salman, we were discussing about potential for Pakistan and your point. Please continue with your point.
Thank you, Taimur. Taimur, it does, every time our parliamentary delegations go abroad and they participate at these conferences as well as, state-to-state level interactions, there is, a lot is left to be desired. And one can think of multiple examples, and, one example that is coming up is our participation at COP24, the landmark kind of conference on climate change that Pakistan attends, but is a complete wallflower when it comes to the negotiations. Their talking points are often incomplete, and that is perhaps the same across all areas where our officials participate. There is a reason why our state-to-state level relations with Kabul are have been taking a nosedive. New Delhi, etc. If you ask for the paperwork, one will find it'll be a difficult task to ask the Foreign Office what the conversation is with any country for that matter. So I would like to recommend that one should shift the focus from a state level to people level, and I think there you have the utility of track 2 to track 8. Where, as was said previously, we discussed that, people are able to pick up conversations, diversify conversations, finds point of interlinkage and relevance between institutions outside the government fray. And I think that is where, one also recognizes that while we are trying to leverage multipolarity is not something that governments, small government is best in multipolarity. Say your piece and remove yourself is how many people are doing it. The example of Iran was cited. the cropping up of TV channels, the sort of utility of business lobbies and how they connect with each other. Pakistan's interest with Pakistan has over-engaged with the executive branch in the US, for example, but nothing with the congressional branch. Who will do that? Your lobby groups. Have we engaged them? No, we haven't. Who are they? We have no lobbyists. So the list can go on how we can leverage people, and these people are not difficult to find. It doesn't take someone, you pay me and I do this job for you in Washington, D.C. No, I'll meet you halfway. I'm quite willing to be a lobbyist for, not load the term and call it lobbyist, but I'm willing to represent your interests, go via the physician communities in Pakistan. There's diaspora that can be leveraged at all levels. That's how India has done it. That's how the Iranis have done it. That's how the Israelis have done it. And while we repeatedly ask ourselves this question, why is our government unable to find itself out of this conversation year after year, the fact is that our bureaucracy is holding back the government from the people. And that happens in Pakistan to an unfortunate degree, where the interests of government and the people are squarely with your bureaucracy, which is unable to redefine its own role. So should the government, directly speak to the people? We have many, many ideas,
right, yeah.
and these are some of them through your channel.
Talking about governments and people, Ambassador Altaf, this is very important. This point is very important to tap the potential of our own people and to also explore the markets that are in the world. This whole issue that Salman referred to, how do you see that?
Well, Salman has raised a very pertinent aspect of our discourse, conversation. I tend to agree with him partially and also tend to disagree with him partially, because we hold, we of course hold our own opinions and views. It is true, and I am a staunch believer that foreign policy of Pakistan needs to be revisited and reoriented. There is a lot of room for that. We perhaps are still not on the right track. We are still living in the past. We are still at points a security-centric and security-minded state, even in terms of our foreign policy.
Even the international trends are rapidly changing.
So we really need to focus on that point where we reorient foreign policy in such a way that it takes care of Pakistan's national interest in a very broad frame. And if you give me a more leverage to speak, I was looking at domestic policies of Pakistan. There are almost 30 policies, domestic policies interacting, overlapping. And what is foreign policy for you and me? This is for me a reflection and amplification and manifestation of domestic policies of a country. If we are lagging behind in all these domestic policies, whether defense policy or economic policy or public policy, you talk them, you name them, and we see we are not up to date. At certain points we are not delivering, then of course we really need to have that soul searching, where while we are correcting our domestic policies and also focusing on the foreign policy. This is my point number one. Second is, everyone has been working in its own silos. We really need to come out of that. What is that? Foreign office, if they are working in isolation, they are in not touch with think tanks or research institutes,
universities, right, yeah.
Universities, academia, or even people at large, because if we don't reach them, and this is what the slogan is of the new PTI government, they want to make all their policies people-centric. If it is true, then of course, starting from the top, let foreign office people do their own sincere, committed, dedicated work, being seasoned and experienced diplomats, because that is their domain. Then of course, the other 30 policies working simultaneously, let them do their own work. And like other two panelists pointed out, the other areas of expertise, they should also be taken on board. And we should reach the people at the end of the day. What are their needs and demands, and how these national policies, including foreign policy, are going to serve the purpose of the nation. Only then perhaps by using a collective approach we can deliver. Otherwise, we, while sitting on that sort of platform, will be talking in isolation. A is doing something, B is not. And there is a lot of room for improvement. Yes, that is. So let us thinking now instead of working in silos, we are thinking to work collectively for the good and benefit of the people of this country. And then we can look outward, whether we are talking about relations with our neighboring countries and beyond.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Ambassador Altaf, pleasure having you on the show. Mr. Sheryar, thank you for joining us. Salman, thank you thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Right. That's all from today's show. We talked about Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Pakistan's foreign policy. Tomorrow is an important day. By-polls are also going to take place tomorrow, and 35 national and provincial assembly seats would be contested tomorrow. It is an important day for the ruling party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and also for PMLN and Pakistan People's Party. The developments are interesting in the political arena. The president of PMLN, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, is in NAB custody. That is certainly going to hamper perhaps PMLN's performance. That is what the high officials of PMLN have been saying to the Election Commission of Pakistan. But at the same time, perhaps the things are bright for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. We'll see what happens tomorrow, and we hope that tomorrow this whole thing is going to take place amicably and peacefully. Thank you for watching today's program. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz.